Hi, I'm Jerry, and I love to fish. But when I tell people about my fly-in fishing trips to Canada, they get a little intimidated by all the planning. So I put together this series to help you plan your own trip. Hopefully, you'll have as much fun as we do. This video is going to be on shopping for food and menu items. First thing you want to do is build a list, a timeline, and I'll go over that here in a little bit. Make sure you know what everybody wants. We had a problem with onions one year. We had onions planned for one of the later meals, and somebody cut them all up at one of the first meals to put on the hamburger. We didn't plan for putting onions on the hamburger, and their comment was, well, I don't eat a hamburger without an onion. So if you know what everybody likes and what they want to have, then you pack extra onions and pack extra things to make sure that everybody's happy and you're not missing it later on during the trip. And also double check for frozen. We were halfway to Canada one year. And a little embarrassing, but one of the wives called and said, hey, there's this bag of all this weird stuff in the freezer, listed it all out, realized we left a whole bag of food in the freezer. So we had to stop at Walmart and grab the extra things. This right here is a list of our menu items. We tape it to the cabinet so that everybody can see it. Then we also break down what we're having per day. So, if you're having corn twice, you're going to have it on here twice, 2 cans this day and 2 cans that day. But that way everybody knows, we're making corn today, then I need to use 2 cans as opposed to 3 because we're not going to have it at the end of the trip if we use it all up early. So the timeline. One of the nice things about the timeline we like to do is we figure out our alcohol chart. So we'll list down exactly how many of each kinds of beers. So this many blue, this many Bud, whatever it is, Yuengling, and then this much Captains and this much bourbon. When we hit the border and we hand them the list, we've never had them tell us to pull over and they want to check the car for our alcohol, just because we're so organized. And a couple times they told us just to go on. They were pretty happy with it. So anyway, I highly recommend you guys doing that. So we, on this one here, back in 17, we packed for our non-perishables a week prior, and the perishables 2 days prior. We try to do the non-perishable. Now we try to do it 2 weeks prior, but you definitely don't want to wait and do them all in the same day. So if you can get it done, whatever you can get it done. But non-perishables, are going to hang around for a couple months anyway. So it's highly recommended to get the non-perishables in one trip and then the perishables in another trip. And then the day of, we have you'll notice we start off with our little list. So we put a tarp out in the garage. Everything that needs to go and be packed into the car goes on that tarp. And then this reminds us, well, don't forget the frozen food and to fill up the thermos, things like that. But one of the nice things that we do is we have a portfolio. We put all the passports, we put our alcohol chart, we put a small envelope with a whole bunch of singles in it for the tools and things like that. But we put all that in a portfolio and we put that up in the front of the car so that the driver has access to it and we're not all fumbling around when they ask us for our passports and stuff like that. So perishables are 2 days prior. You don't want your bread to be sitting there for 2 or 3 weeks, getting moldy and stuff, and your eggs and all that. And then make sure you double check the list before you leave so you don't leave anything behind. This is an example of a menu. What we did on this one here is now we list what we need for each of these meals right below the meal. So on this breakfast, everybody gets 2 eggs per person, 1 package of bacon, 2 slices of bread per person, and then some Frank's hot sauce. So by listing it all out here, if somebody gets back early and they want to start working on the eggs or whatever, they don't have to sit and try to figure out how many eggs do I do. Well, it's 2 per person. It makes things easier and it makes sure that you have the right food for the rest of the week. And everybody needs to know you need to stick to this. We had somebody decided to make cornbread one time because they thought it would sound good with something else. And we had cornbread planned as part of a meal and we didn't have it because somebody decided to go rogue and had it on the wrong day. we like to break down this is a breakdown of a list of the non-perishable. We like to have this 2 weeks prior. On the 17th, or back in 17, we did it 1 week prior, but most of the time we try to have it done 2 weeks prior. You want to put all these things inside of tubs, those little tubs I was showing you before, and you want to label one. So if you want to go back and check on something, what kind of jam did we get? Well, if you have everything labeled, it just makes things so much nicer. And then also know what everybody uses so there are no surprises. We went up there one time. We had Frank's hot sauce. We had a small bottle of it. There was 10 in the group, either 10 or 12. But we had eggs, and after the 2 days of eggs, every single person was putting Frank's hot sauce on their eggs, and we ran out of it. So we didn't know that everybody in the whole group would like Frank's hot sauce on their eggs. So it was nice to know that from now on, we double check. If we're having something, we ask people, how do you like your eggs? Okay, what do you like to put on it? And we make sure we have plenty of food for it so we don't run out. This is a breakdown of the perishable. Again, the perishable is done about 2 days beforehand. You don't want stuff to get moldy and have it sitting around. You pack the bread in a separate container. Make sure that the meat is frozen so that it stays longer. And you also want to look at the meat, like you're going to have the first 3 days. You put that in the refrigerator up there. The refrigerator is just going to chill things. It's not going to keep things really cold. So you can leave the meats for the end of the week inside of a cooler with ice, and it's going to stay a lot colder. The breakdown here for the snacks, make sure this is important. We do this with the non-perishable, but we also like to break it out so that we know what we're having. Also, it's important to ask everybody what they like. If you have Doritos and someone says, well, I only eat Cool Ranch, why didn't you get Cool Ranch? Well, if you knew that beforehand, then you make sure that you pack it. Sometimes people will pack other stuff. If I liked Cool Ranch, and I brought my own bag of Cool Ranch, then everyone's kind of curious, are we allowed to share with that, or whatever. If it's part of the kit, if it's part of the pack, then everybody knows that they're allowed to have it, and it kind of breaks up any of the confusion. So that's what we do, and hopefully you guys will be able to get some help with your planning by using this, and you'll have as much fun as we do. Please visit walleyejared.com for other videos and files.